Good morning, this is Dustin with Orlando Painters. We are here at Jasper Engines and Transmissions in Orlando Central Park, kind of right over by the Florida Mall. We're painting the exterior of this building here. It's in pretty bad shape. It's been, I don't know what the general manager told me, Tim, probably 25 years since this place has been painted last. So I sent a couple of my guys over here during the week, pulled them off one of our other projects and had them patch cracks and seal the building, and there's just paint bubbling all over the place. You can tell there's like an elastomeric coating on here from years ago, and paint's getting, or water or something through the years is getting behind it, and there's bubbles all over the place. So they're scraping paint and water's pouring out of the bubbles, and there's a bunch of them. There's this big one here was all bubbled up. They're peeling and scraping and scraping and scraping the best they can. They still probably gonna have to do a little bit more over there, but some of it sticks really well and some of it just, you know, is blistering off all over the place. You could literally, if you wanted to, scrape this building, all the paint completely off the building. Once you start, it just keeps going and going and going. You basically got to kind of cut it off and try to feather out your edges, and not a lot you can do. I told the powers that be here that the only way to do this project, you know, 100% the correct way, would be to have a company come in, sandblast all this old paint off, get back to the original substrate, you know, and do your prime and seal and painting then. But I don't think they want to go that route financially, so we pretty much scraped off all the bubbles all over the building, tried to feather out the edges. There's a couple they're going to have to hit again before they get started. It just something they overlooked there, but I'll let them know. Just scrape that and smooth it out a little bit. But it's tough because you never even know, you know, down the road from now you can paint the building, and then next thing you know, bubbles appear in other areas that weren't here when we painted, you know. So we run into that quite often. We do all the Orange County water plants and all their big huge GSTs same way. They paint those GST, the big huge water tanks with the domes on them, like every 7 years. And most of them were built back in like the early 70s, mid 70s. There's a few newer ones, but most of them are all built back in the 70s. So you figure it's 2018, and every 7 years they repaint them. Well, what they've been using is like a waterproofing coating every 7 years. It dries about 7 mils thick versus, you know, your standard top of the line, you know, premium line of house paint dries at about 2.5 mils, pretty much. So if you got 7 on there every time you paint, with that's dry mils with that waterproofing coating that they put on there. They started off back in the 70s and 80s with an elastomeric, which when that came out, it was like the cat's meow. But the product's really a really bad product. Most of them, at least back in the day, they weren't breathable. They weren't water or vapor permeable. So next thing you know, you got blisters all over. I mean, no matter what, moisture is going to come out. Either it's going to come out in the form of a bubble, or it's going to bust through the coating. And the same thing with, you know, vapors. They got to release. So you got to have a breathable coating on these buildings. Well, you keep putting elastomeric over elastomeric over elastomeric through the years, and then maybe they switched it to a different waterproofing coating. But most waterproofing coatings and elastomeric paints aren't breathable. Maybe they're maybe a little better now than they were, but even so, once you do, you know, 2 coats of it, or even get into a 3rd coat of it, it's definitely not going to be breathable anymore. They're hard enough. It's hard enough for those real thick coatings to breathe as it is. Then you start top coating it, you know, every time you go to repaint, you top coat it again, and just makes it worse. So in the case of those water plants, I mean, God, they got you know, 45 to 55 mils of paint or something on those tanks. So the county finally realized they need to sandblast those GSTs, ground storage tanks, first and then paint them. And this building's the same way. I don't know how many times it's been painted. It certainly hasn't been painted any time recently, but it's pretty much every time it rains, a couple days later, bubbles form all over the place, you know, and that's just a telltale sign that it's a waterproofing coating, you know, or elastomeric paint. This was painted 20 years ago, it was probably elastomeric. And elastomeric paints also have like the worst color retention that there is. They fade real super fast. So if you're ever going to use a product like that, use it as your undercoating, then top coat it with top of line breathable 100% acrylic paint. At any rate, you can see the bubbles where they scraped. We'll do the handrails here, the roll-up garage doors, one slab door here on the side. And we're going Sherwin-Williams super paint over the top of this. You're going to spray everything, back roll everything. We sealed all the brick, so it's pretty much waterproof with a clear sealer. You can spray water on it and it'll beat off that brick right there. Filled in a few of the gaps. There were some holes in the kind of in the joint lines there, those mortar lines there. Filled a few holes so there wouldn't get any water intrusion. But other than that, it's a square box. It's pretty simple. It just has tons of cracks. I mean, there was tons of cracks. I didn't really show you the front yet. They kind of sprayed over a lot of them. We had to do some patching underneath one of the docks over there. A big, huge piece of stucco was missing, so we had to do a big patch there. I kind of like to refer it to a stucco guy when we have big patches, but Jasper said just do the best you can with it. If it doesn't hold, we understand we probably need a stucco guy to come re-stucco some of this front, but do what you can for now. If it doesn't hold, we'll eventually get to it, you know. So, but I'd like to thank Jasper for the business. I'm sure they got plenty of quotes, and we're definitely never the cheapest. We're fully insured, real workers' comp, not the workers' comp exempt, big general liability insurance policies, commercial auto insurance policies. Two office and warehouse spaces here in Central Florida. And we do excellent work, and I stand behind everything. So we're definitely never going to be the cheapest guy in town. Probably not going to be the most expensive, but we're certainly not the cheapest. You know what you get when you get the cheapest guy in town. So, but I'd like to thank Jasper. Like I said, they probably got plenty of quotes, and they did their due diligence for sure, and decided to go with us. We do a lot of work here in Central Park for a lot of different businesses: Pepsi-Cola, Sherwin-Williams, Taylor Farms. There's a few other places around here we have contracts with. So thanks again for watching this short video. I'll make a final short video, not as long as this one. This kind of went on and on, but I'll make a shorter video when we're done here. Thank you and have a wonderful day.